So this is the second part to our lesson on solving triangles using law of sines and law of cosines. We'll just continue. I have 3 more examples here. Let's continue here. So the first example, we did a triangle where we had 2 sides and the included angle. And then the second example, we just did 3 sides. Now we have a situation where it's 2 angles and a not included side. And so what I like about this is the fact that I have an angle and the length of a side opposite that angle. So I have an opportunity to use law of sines from the beginning, which I think you guys will all agree is a little more straightforward. So let's go ahead and start with that. Easiest way to thing I can find here now is, well, I could find the measure of angle C first. Let's go ahead and do that. That's going to be pretty simple because I'm going to use I'm just going to use the triangle angle sum theorem. So the measure of angle C is 180 minus 61 plus 54. 180 minus, so that would be 115. So the measure of angle C should be right at 65 degrees. So I have that circled already. Got that ready to go. Okay. So the nice thing about that is that's accurate too. I didn't do any rounding, but now I have enough. I can do law of sines twice and be able to find this and then this. So here we go. So let's go, let's find B first. Here's B, this is C. So I'm going to go sine of 54 over 25 equals sine of 61 over B. Okay, so let's do B times sine of 54 equals 25 times sine of 61. Divide both sides by sine of 54. And B gives you, I just have to enter this in now. All right, so let's go 25 times sine of 61, and the parentheses, that's a big thing, divided by sine of 54, and the parentheses. And I should get 27. All right, so B is 27. Make sure I label it. It's going to be miles. So I'm 2/3 done with that problem already. All right. So then you're looking at one more to find. So this would be B is 27. Okay. So now I'm going to find C. Use that same ratio. This is a ratio that they gave you. They gave you these numbers. Like this is actually a rounded number. So the most accurate I can be is if I use this ratio. So let's go sine of 54 over 25 equals, and I need to find C. So sine of 65 over C. So sine of 54 over 25, sine of 65 over C. All right. So do that same work here. So we're looking at C times sine of 54 equals 25 times sine of 65. Divide both sides by sine of 54. And I just got to enter that in. So 25 times sine of 65 and the parentheses divided by sine of 54 and the parentheses. 28. So C is 28 miles. Okay. So that's a good situation. I love that because we didn't have to introduce a law of cosines at all. Not that it's difficult, but it's just a lot more number crunching. These proportions are much easier. So started with, when I have 2 angles, not included sides, started with the triangle angle sum theorem, and then I did law of sines twice in order to find the other 2 sides, and we're good to go. All right, so here's an example. We haven't seen this one yet, and this is the one where I start with 2 angles and the included side, okay? So as of right now, I do not have enough information to do law of sines, but I can use the triangle angle sum theorem to find this angle, then I'll have enough information, all right? So we got to do that. So let's do triangle angle sum theorem to find B. Remember, this is C, this is A, and that's angle B. So, all right, so let's go 180, and this would be, yeah, measure of angle B. So 180 minus the sum of 61 plus 89. So that would be, measure of angle B is 180 minus 150. Found that to be 30 degrees. Okay, so that part is done. Okay, so we know this is now 30. Now I have enough information to be able to use that law of sines. So I have this ratio. I have the angle and I have the length of the side opposite angle. So let's find A first. Let's find the length of BC, which we're calling A. All right, so I'll do sine of 30 degrees over 16 equals sine of 89 over A. So sine of 30 over 16 equals sine of 89 over A. So A times sine of 30 equals 16 times sine of 89. Divide both sides by sine of 30. And then I can get what A is equal to. Okay. So 16 times sine of 89, I'm going to end the parentheses there, divided by sine of 30, end the parentheses there. Right at 32, and those are yards. Make sure I circle that. Again, I want you to see all this work as you guys are doing your assignment this week. Okay, so one more. So I have 32. So all I have to do from this point is I got to find C. I'm going to go ahead and use the law of sines again. So use that same ratio I started with. I know that's exact. Sine of 30 over 16 equals, and I got to find C. So sine of 61 over C. Okay. So C times sine of 30 equals 16 times sine of 61. Divide both sides by sine of 30. And this is going to be an approximate value. All right, so 16 times sine of 61, and the parentheses divided by 30. Whoops, nope, sine of 30, and the parentheses. Hopefully I did that right. Let's find out. So that gives me right at 28. And these are yards still. We're good to go. All right. So one more. And this is the last situation here. This is where I'm given two sides and a non-included angle. All right. So you're going to notice that I do have a ratio of an angle and a side opposite angle. So that's awesome. So the first thing I have to find is the measure of angle B, because I know this length of the side opposite. And then again, I'm using law of sines. If I have an angle and I have a side opposite angle, then I can use law of sines, which is easier. So here we go. So sine of 65 over 31 equals sine of B over 22. All right. So solve it. All right, so we're looking at this. Now I have to do sine inverse of both sides. And this is where I enter it in. Okay. So sine inverse 22 times sine of 65 and the parentheses divided by 31 and the parentheses. I got 40. So the measure of angle B is 40 degrees. All right, so we know this is 40. Okay. Now I can find the measure of angle A pretty easily. Triangle angle sum theorem. All right, so the measure of angle A is 75 degrees. Circle that answer, making sure I'm labeling everything. All right, so one last thing I got to do is to find the length of segment 8 or BC, which is, we're calling it A here. Okay. Law of signs again. I'm going to use the two numbers they gave us. So we're looking at sine of 65 over 31 equals, and then 75 is opposite that side, so sine of 75 over A. So A times sine of 65 equals 31 times sine of 75, divided by sine of 65. And then type this in. Okay. So 31 times sine of 75 divided by sine of 65, and the parentheses on that one. 33. And label it because we're talking, it's in feet. Okay, so again, you're going to find 3 things for every triangle. We did examples of everything that you'll have to look at. So good luck.